So much has changed regarding what to wear to work, but your image is much more than fashion. So, when was the last time you really thought about the image you want to project, especially if you're going up for a big promotion or a new job? Hi, I'm Diana Bernal, career strategist guiding ambitious Latinas to help them reach their career goals. And today, I have a terrific special guest, Ashley Schafer, image consultant and personal stylist. And she will talk to us about how to really define our image and show up in a way that helps us achieve our career goals. Let's jump in. Hey, Ashley, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, when you and I first met, it was during the pandemic, and that was a great time to talk about image at work, especially because we were all remote, et cetera. But I recently saw a post that you put up on Instagram about elevating one's image. And I thought, perfect. That would be a great conversation for us to have here because so many of the women that I work with are indeed trying to get up. They're trying to work their way up the corporate ladder. They're trying to get promoted. And of course, elevating our image can be a piece of that. So before we go into specifics, tell us what you mean when you talk about image.
Sure. So you are absolutely correct that image is a really important part in climbing the corporate ladder, in developing, and setting the standard for yourself at work. So I think this is a great conversation to be having. And while, yes, clothing is a large part of your image, it really is kind of all encompassing and those nonverbal interactions that you kind of carry with you. So I think along with your image, obviously, is the clothes portion, but like, what are your standards? Do you have a code of conduct for yourself? And what really is the narrative that you want others to receive upon meeting you? Right? What do you want it to say? What do you want people to know about you? Because 70% of communication is nonverbal, and that first impression happens within a tenth of a second. And so while your education and the certifications are very important, your image is often something that gets overlooked.
Yeah, and I think it's a great conversation for us to have. And I remember when you and I first started working together, one of the things that I wanted to convey was professionalism or being successful, but I didn't want to be intimidating. I still wanted to be approachable. So,
Mhm.
how can women then start to identify what they want to project at work and then eventually make sure that their style matches up with that image?
Sure. Well, I think first and foremost, it's really important to understand your company's dress code. And when I say that, I mean really like what is the dress code in the policy, not what are necessarily people around you wearing, because I think that that often really gets confused. Um, and so understanding that and so that you're bringing the proper level, I think is really important. But I always encourage my clients to ask thought provoking questions on themselves. I think journaling is a really, really powerful exercise with this. And the thought provoking questions that I have them ask themselves are things like, what does the ideal you look like? Because I think as women, we often get stuck in the comparison game.
Yeah.
And, we might see someone on Instagram or on at the grocery store, whatever, and you might look at this woman and be like, wow, like I would really love to dress like that. And so, what does the ideal you look like? What is she wearing? What do you like about her? Does she get up early? Is she on time? Does she iron her clothes? What kind of energy does she carry, right? Is she upbeat? Is she positive? All of these things go into your image. And, thinking about like what sort of adjectives you would want to describe this ideal person. And while it sounds a little crazy and a little fluffy, I think that this exercise really does work. And I can think back to myself over like about a year and a half ago, I did this exercise with myself.
Oh,
And
good.
it's really funny that, you might be listening saying like, "Oh, well, why should you do that? Because this is what you teach, like, that should already be done." And like everyone else, I've evolved in my own career. And, I sat with myself and thought about where I wanted to take my business and what type of how was that businesswoman showing up? And I wrote down little things like she wears more tailored clothing. And to be honest with you, I kind of forgot that I did this exercise. And then I went back and looked at it not that long ago. And I was like, wow, I'm doing all of those things. And so I think that really doing the inner work of channeling who your ideal self is, what does your next level self look like? I think doing that work of journaling and writing it down. So few people actually write down their goals
Mhm.
will just be really helpful for you.
Well, that is a perfect segue because I really did want to talk about women who are moving up the ladder within the same company. So, your example is a terrific one that even though you are doing the same type of work, every once in a while you need to revisit what you're
Yeah.
doing and how you're presenting yourself. So, let's talk for women who are at the same company, and I think about my younger days when I was hired as an admin. And, people always thought of me as an admin, but as you go up the corporate ladder, you get promotions or you get hired at an entry level job, but you want a management job. How can women then think about their image differently, still being who they are, but think of it a little differently to try and either get that next level promotion or show up the way they want to when they have received that promotion?
Yeah. So I think doing the work of channeling your next level self will help to kind of write that roadmap for you. And when you start thinking about those things, also think about what habits do you need to create in order to embody her. So if she's showing up looking more put together, maybe you need to wake up a little bit earlier, right? And so it's figuring out what those habits are, but especially with someone who is trying to move up the corporate ladder or who is trying to evolve her career, I think shedding who you used to be is so important. And I don't mean forgetting about your roots or forgetting about who you are, but when you start your career, maybe you're not making a ton of money. And so the things that you're investing in are, you're of a lower caliber. Maybe you're not spending that much money on your clothing. Maybe you are skimping out on certain things. So I think investing in your clothing, investing in your wardrobe will definitely help to elevate that image. Not only that, but also, you know, doing other things like tailoring your wardrobe, making sure that it's apparent that you're, putting the time in and caring about the way you're showing up at work, I think will also pay itself in dividends. And then, you know, looking at who's above you. What sort of habits are they doing? Are they showing up to work a little bit earlier? Are they wearing a blazer to work? What are they doing? As soon as you start to kind of embody some of those traits, you can really start to become that next level self and really purging what no longer serves you. What have you outgrown in your wardrobe that kind of represents a more junior part of your career?
Mhm.
I think also women are really hard on themselves when it comes to purging. Oh, I spent money on that. I don't want to
Right.
get rid of that.
Yeah.
But it's really those pieces that are holding you back because if you continue to show up as a junior level, then you're never going to get to those top tiers.
Right. That's the way they're going to see you. And I want to touch a little bit more on something that, you said still being yourself, that you're not giving up your roots or anything. Because one thing that we have been talking a lot about is being authentic in the workplace. And one of the things that you and I found that we had in common, that we're both Latinas, we're both Puerto Rican. And I see a lot of professional women willing to show up with some ethnic flair in their wardrobe. But some of us who were raised during the day when it was the gray suit, the navy suit, or the black suit, some of us sometimes have a tough time bringing that sense of self, that ethnicity that we might like to through attire and accessories. So, how can some women who want to take that leap and show off a little bit more of who they are, embrace that concept, but still feel professional?
Sure. So I think first and foremost is understanding your dress code at work, because if we are talking about, top level people in finance, that it's unfortunate, but that gray, black, and navy is still very relevant for that business attire. And so, really, you kind of have to put your personal style to the wayside a bit if you're working in a more formal professional work environment. When we get down to the smart casual and business casual dress codes, we can explore a little bit more creativity with our style. And I think that, playing around with color is certainly something that you can lean into. Maybe you're still wearing a blazer or you're still doing a nice trouser, but maybe it's in like a deeper burgundy or something like that. Um, I think also playing around with accessories can be really fun, especially if maybe you have a piece that feels really sentimental to you. I would encourage people to kind of stay away from things that are kind of too flashy or feel a little bit too weekend. While I think a lot of dress codes have gotten really relaxed, the one thing that I still really struggle with as a stylist with all of my clients is having women kind of give in to their surroundings, if you will. So
Mhm.
I've heard so many times clients say, well, I can get away with wearing leggings to work,
Good God.
or I can get away with X, Y, and Z. And what I like to tell my clients is you are in control of the way you want to show up at work. You are in control of the narrative that you want to create behind your wardrobe. And if sweatshirts and leggings is good for somebody else, that's great. Let
Yeah.
them have that.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you have to show up like that. And this honestly really goes for work or weekend.
Yeah.
Like if you have this vision for yourself climbing the corporate ladder, then stay on that path and dress like her.
Yes, and I love the leggings example because this is something I tell my teenage daughters. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And I think
Exactly.
we do fall victim to that because everyone is showing up in hoodies and jeans. I work with a lot of people in the Bay Area. I was just up there recently and I go up about 3 or 4 times a year. And there is that perception of the hoodie and the jeans, but that doesn't mean that you have to be the one in the hoodie
Right.
and the jeans. So let's talk a little bit more about the business casual, especially for the tech companies or really any business that has a more relaxed dress code, especially because of remote work, and how that has integrated into our lives. So, how do we balance sort of either feeling on trend because a lot of these people are wearing more trendy clothes, but still feel professional?
Yeah. So I think that it's really important to kind of lean into current silhouettes and styles. And so I preach this all the time to my clients. A dated style definitely equals a dated skill set. Whether or
Mm,
not that's true, it's
mhm.
unfortunate, but that really is the case. I mean, we all know like a used car salesman vibe and like what that
Yes.
looks like and
Right.
how that makes us feel.
Right.
And so when we dress in current styles and current silhouettes, it shows off that we are up to date and feeling current and know and are advancing in our field. So I think that that's really important. Um so current styles and current silhouettes are, like right now the wide leg is the hot silhouette. Skinny
Thank
jean
God.
is yes, the skinny jean is out. And so yeah, I'm not upset about it either. And
No, thank
so
you.
by leaning into that, still in a professional way, so if we're wearing jeans, a dark wash denim, we're not doing ripped jeans, we're not doing anything with excessive amounts of fading. A dark wash truly is almost like an extension of a trouser, like feeling like a navy blue pant, right?
Yeah. And I should say too, by the way, you lived both of these environments. Can
I
we take a
did.
minute
Yeah.
talk about your work because I think it's fascinating the switch you made. And I love hearing people's own career transitions as well before you became a stylist. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I actually started my career in the accounting world. I worked for Big Four accounting. I got my CPA, and I did that for about 10 years and just felt like that was it for me. That the hallways of corporate America were going to be my runway, and that was really where it was going to end with me. And it wasn't until I had left Big Four and started working in private industry that I met someone who was also leaving to pursue a career dream of hers and was switching careers. And I said to myself, like, wow, like, how is she any more skilled than I? If she can do it, I can do it. And that really gave me the confidence to go ahead and pursue styling and get trained and learn more about the industry. Back then, Instagram, while yes, it was a thing, it was not as big as it is today. So you really weren't hearing these magic stories of people doing a career switch. And so I launched my business about 12 years ago and did it on the side of my accounting job for a while until I finally left in 2019 and went full time with this business. And I tell you, I have just never regretted it a day in my life. And my job is so rewarding. And I've met such beautiful women. And it's just, yeah, it's really is a dream.
Well, you did 2 things, by the way, in launching your business that are key. So you started it as a side hustle, like we all
Yes.
do. We keep our full-time jobs. We start doing something after 5 o'clock or on weekends or during our vacation days to see if there's traction and how we can grow it. But you also chose something that people were coming to you for. I remember this story that people were coming to you at the office and
Yeah.
asking for your help.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I chose to really show up. Like, I was fortunate enough to, after I left Big Four accounting, I was fortunate enough to work in a casual office where I really could express myself through my style, still keeping it professional at work, like no ripped jeans or anything like that. But my image that I portrayed was one that I understood style and had fun with style, and people started noticing and they kept coming to me for advice and for help. And so before I really, I mean, I had clients, but I also was working in the office, like on a secret agenda with styling people in the bathrooms and shopping on lunch breaks.
Yeah.
And I will say, if there's anyone out there watching here that's considering a career switch, while it is a really scary thing, if it's something that you feel really confident about, you have to at some point take that leap because there's just only so many hours in a day.
Yeah, and the side hustle is a great way to start that, to explore it, because then you realize, you know what? I want to be doing this. I don't want this to be weekend. I don't want it to be like literally in the closet. You want it out and out
Yeah,
there. And so that's what one of the also the takeaways that I hope that women uh take away from our conversation. And let's talk a little bit though before we move into some other specifics for you about the role of confidence because I think that's kind of what you and I are both trying to do. We're both trying to lift up these women through confidence because most of the Latinas I meet, they are skilled, they are badasses, they are really experienced, and they have all the things. And sometimes they just need to find their own confidence
hmm
to reach that promotion, to apply for that other job. So, image, I would imagine, and the style and what you bring to it I know for me, is a confidence booster, isn't it?
absolutely. Absolutely. I say to, my clients all the time, when as we start liking what we see in the mirror, as we start changing the way we're dressing and how we're showing up, we start to notice changes. And then as we start to notice these changes, we start to feel a little bit happier. Maybe we start to say nicer things to ourselves. And then at some point, you actually start to believe those nice things. And I think that confidence, while, a really great outfit is killer and can do amazing things for your wardrobe, that confidence, that comes is really what's also going to propel you to that next level. And I have seen my clients, I I mean, it truly just makes me feel so good when I see their evolution in working together and how an updated wardrobe that fits properly, like what that does for their confidence is amazing. And I think that while, your wardrobe may not fix everything, but it definitely can certainly help to jumpstart you in, increasing your confidence.
Yeah, and just because we are working remotely doesn't mean that we have to show up in sweats. Again, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. You should make
Right.
sure that what you're projecting on the screen sort of projects that image that you want to have. And we can do that online and we can do it showing up because more and more people I talk to are definitely in the office. I mean, I don't know about you, you're in
Yeah.
the East Coast in Jersey and New York. So you probably are hearing it even more. I feel like New York is really back in the office.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of people that are back in the office, and I always love to give the analogy of Superman, right? Like when he's in his clothes, he's Clark Kent, and he's doing his day to day, but as soon as he puts that uniform on, his powers transform, he becomes a different person, and I think your wardrobe is really no different. And so when we, work a busy day and when we come home, our mind says, "Okay, it's time to wind down. Let me get out of this suit. Let me go put my cozies on." And so subconsciously, that wardrobe change is telling your body to relax. And similarly, if you're getting dressed every day and have to orchestrate really important meetings and be really present, your body isn't going to be as prepped for that or as ready for that as it would be if you were dressed more polished, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that while I mean I love a good sweatpant, I think there's a time and a place for everything, and there is so much benefit to actually getting dressed for work. And there's various levels of that, right? Like, I'm not saying that if you're working from home, you have to show up in a suit every day.
Mhm.
But, you know, finding something that elevates you as opposed to, your sweatpants.
Yeah, and I can attest to that because I think right before I met you, I had found myself in an environment that was much smaller, a little bit more casual. And between that and the pandemic, I had let the blazers go away. And then when you and I met and you reminded me of the impact of a tailored blazer, the nice polish of it. Again, it doesn't have to be sort of that three-piece suit looking blazer, but there are
Right.
different types of blazers out there. So I started bringing back blazers into my wardrobe. And I just felt a little more elevated. I felt a little more professional. And I was a supervisor too. So here I
Yeah.
was with a team and part of the management team. So I felt like always having a blazer to go to was sort of my tip to myself that, yes, we're showing up. This was my reminder. And then, yes, you come home and you take it off. You put on whatever pair of sweatpants you want in any color. But for me, I forgot how much I actually enjoyed a blazer. And again, it doesn't have to be the working girl 80s, and the shoulder pads
Right.
that I grew up with. But definitely bringing that back into my wardrobe. And you should go to the website because I found this great aqua blazer that made me feel so powerful. And I did this presentation and I was on a panel and I loved it and it fit perfectly. And that was sort of the feeling that I think that you're talking about to make sure that for instance, I carry that feeling with me every day. I could wear denim
Yeah.
too, but it's that blazer that makes me feel empowered and professional and
Absolutely.
polished.
And so you talk about the blazer. I'm wearing a blazer. I love a good blazer, but I think it's also important to for all the listeners out there to understand that just wearing a blazer potentially is not enough, right? Like we want to make sure that it's a well-fitting blazer. We want to make sure that it's properly tailored, that there's a lining in it, that it fits well, that it looks like current style. So right now, like things are a little bit more slouchy and oversized as opposed to how they used to be. Back in the 90s where everything felt a little bit more fitted. And so, because what I've also seen is clients say, "Oh, well, I have a blazer on, so I'm good to go." And I'm like, that blazer barely fits you or pilling." And so I think that, if you're someone looking to elevate their image, really making sure you're paying attention to the details and that we're checking all the boxes, not just kind of going through the motions.
Right, and it's gotta work for you. I'm thinking of a blazer I tried this summer. It was linen, it was a pale buttery yellow, and it was pretty and fun, and I wore it to one meeting, but then I was like, "You know what? This is too awkward for me." As much as I love the concept of linen, and I have other linen items, this particular jacket for a Saturday retreat just did not bring out what I wanted. So I made that observation, and so I think that's what you're talking about as well. Some women, though, when they are reaching a certain age, again, especially at different companies, when there are a lot of people, let's say in their 20s and 30s, and here you are in your 40s or 50s, trying to be relatable, trying to not age out. I think that's where bringing in something on trend, as you mentioned. Can you
Yeah,
speak to that again one more time, just for in thinking about the women who might be 50 and again, when we're talking about the Silicon Valley, when we're talking about some of the startups out here, there's a lot of young people in the office, but doing one or two simple things to accent our wardrobe with a modern piece can maybe help bridge that gap.
sure. Absolutely. And I think that while one would say, I have to say this, that working with a stylist is the best way to get the best results.
Yes.
I do mean it because we are here to guide you and to show you not only like what current styles and silhouettes are, but what is also going to flatter you. But so I think that, making sure your wardrobe feels like fresh, current, and updated is so important. So right now specifically, like it's the wide leg pant is really popular. So if you're still wearing like tight skinnies or ankle pants, that's really not, it doesn't feel current. Um, a good heel also like always just pays itself in dividends. Like you just show up with authority, feeling a little bit more powerful. Um, and I think also like especially for someone who maybe is getting a little bit more mature in their career, like paying attention to fabrics is
Mm,
really, really important. Like natural fibers, wools, silks, things along those lines feel really luxurious and have like a certain level of command. But I also want to touch on like what you said about that blazer that you just weren't really vibing with.
mhm.
And I think that it's really important that you recognize that and honor that feeling because so often people get those feelings and they say to themselves like, "Oh, well, like maybe it's just like not my day." Well, no. If it didn't work today, it's probably never going to work, and that's okay. We all make
Yeah.
mistakes and just purge it, let it go. It could be great for somebody else because I think that when we're not feeling amazing in our wardrobe, when our wardrobe is filled with things that we don't love, that's where, like confidence comes into play, where we're not really feeling that great about ourselves, where we can't really focus on the most important issues because we're too focused on what we're.
Yeah, and I think of like Barack Obama and Steve Jobs, who famously would talk about their sort of uniform. They didn't want to get themselves bogged down in the morning. So they had
Yeah,
their corporate uniforms that they went to. And I think of how harder it is for women because we have so many more options, right? And if
totally.
you have a closet that represents who you are, you can pick anything that day to show up. But if we do have these old things in our closet, which yes,
Yeah,
I was that person and I had to move some of those things on, then it's much more fun to start your day to say, "Ooh, what cool outfit am I gonna wear?"
totally.
Because I have confidence that most of these pieces are gonna make me feel really good.
Yeah. And I think when, you do that work up front, channeling your next level self, what she wears, creating that vision board, when you're trying clothes on, whether they be new or from your existing wardrobe, you can say to yourself, like, does this represent my next level self? Or is this like a smaller version of me? And we can't grow if we're wearing clothes that represent a smaller version of ourselves.
Yeah, and you have so many more options today. I mean, ladies, when I
Yeah.
started, I just had to watch TV and try and figure it out, right? But now we can go to Pinterest, we can go to
Yeah.
Instagram, and we can find people and we say, "Oh, I like the way that person looks."
Yeah, and I think, like, Instagram, is a great tool to be able to use to get inspiration, but also making sure that you're following the right people, right?
Yeah.
Because if we're just following, you know, the blogger from wherever that's advertising everyday outfits, that's not going to help you level up your game. We need to be following powerful women and emulating how they show up and taking cues from their style, but then also putting your own personal twist on it, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure you feel comfortable with what you have on, and just replicating an outfit that you saw online doesn't take a lot of doesn't put a lot of personality into it, and it's also not going to feel that good on you.
Yeah, terrific. Well, speaking of Instagram, this is a terrific segue. I want to talk more and let you give you the opportunity to share a little bit about your services and where people can find you, and anywhere from the free advice that you give us on Instagram and via your newsletters and up to your services. So take it away.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes. So I live mostly on Instagram. You can find me at Styled by Schafer. I also put out a weekly newsletter, which is just, I just love it so much. And I get such amazing feedback from all of my
Yeah.
recipients on it. It goes out every week. You get 8 different outfit options, you get the shopping links, and there's always a short little post with tips and tricks, something to really educate you, some food for thought around style. It's never spammy. As far as services go, so I work with people in person in the greater Philadelphia area, but also virtually all over. You and I worked together virtually.
Coast to coast.
And yeah, and so I do things like full closet cleanouts where we, talk about all the pieces in your wardrobe to determine what we should keep, what we should get rid of. Color analysis. Color analysis is a hot topic all over TikTok and Instagram. And I'm sorry, but you just cannot get properly analyzed a from AI. So I think color analysis is probably the most important tool for a woman in business to do for herself. Your wardrobe becomes so magnetic and versatile after you figured out what your ideal colors are. It helps you stand out in business for the right reasons. It's the first thing I do with all of my clients. Um, Personal shopping, personal styling, really creating wardrobes that feel so authentic. It's like my clients chose it themselves.
Yeah, and when you and I did the closet audit, I mean, it was stunning, and I still carry those tidbits. And one thing that you left me with was an entire different size. I had been wearing safe, medium, and large sizes almost my whole life because I thought that was my size. And you said, "Diana,
Crazy.
you're a small." And I'm like, "What? Me? Who are you talking about?" It's like, "No, because I wasn't wearing fitted outfits." And I'm not saying tight. I'm just
Right.
saying fitted clothes. And so now when I go shopping, and you are in my mind when I go shopping, I'm like, "Nope, we're gonna try in the small." Ashley said I was too
Yeah.
small, so I'm gonna wear
Yeah.
that. So I will link.
So common.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's also sort of like the baggage we carry too. I mean,
Hmm.
we could go on and on about how
We really
what
could. We really
about
could.
what our mothers said to us or the behavior that they did or did not model at home, and that's why I joked about, I had to look to TV, like to the news anchors or
Yeah.
or other TV shows about what to wear because my parents didn't work in offices. And so I work a lot with women who are either first gen or again, just didn't have that modeling at home. And so that's why we need to rely on other resources to get the input we need to reach the top.
Absolutely. I mean, so many of my clients are completely, for lack of a better word, clueless when it comes to wardrobe, because it's just not something that they were either similarly taught by their mom,
Mhm.
or it's not something that they're even remotely interested in. And I think as women, we catch a bad rap for not being good at shopping or clothes because we're women. We should just naturally know how to do that. But that's incorrect, and it's completely okay for you to outsource that service in order for you to get it perfect. And I think a lot of women feel shame in that, and there's nothing shameful about that, knowing and recognizing that you need a little help, and quite frankly, it's a whole lot less stressful when you have somebody else do it for you.
Yeah, for sure, and I'm in the same boat, too. I work with a lot of women who just realize, "You know what? I've been trying to look for a new job for a whole year. It's not working. I need something else." And that's,
Yeah.
I guess, one of the takeaways too. If something hasn't worked for you until this point, it's time for a change. Well,
Yeah.
Ashley, this has been so much fun, and I could talk to you every day for an hour a day, but we're
Oh,
gonna
thank
wrap it up
you.
here. I'm gonna put all the links in the show notes, and again, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening. For more, visit cornerofficelatinas.com, where we give you the framework, inspiration, and support you need to reach and thrive in the corner office. We have some free downloads on the website, where you can also sign up for our e-news, so we can keep you posted on workshops and events coming up that you will not want to miss. That's cornerofficelatinas.com. See you next week.